What's up, everybody? I'm Katie.
And I'm Morgan.
And this is For Your Misinformation, a podcast dedicated to empowering women to become more politically engaged so we can act in our own best interest.
Let us identify the problem and tell you what we're doing and what you can do to help solve it.
Hi, Morgan.
Hi, Katie. I'm glad we're both still standing.
Yeah, how you doing?
Oh my gosh, what a week. Well, I don't know what life is, and I have no idea how to answer the question, like, how are you? Because I just don't know.
Yeah. A lot can change in a short-ish amount of time. So, do you have any thoughts, like, up top about coronavirus because that you like want to share? Just because, like, I don't know. I don't want to like position us as experts, but I also like, I mean, we both do have master's degrees in public health, so I feel like we at least have like some background knowledge that is like useful, vital.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, the biggest thing is just like even public health experts are not right about everything with this right now because there's just so much so fast, like becoming new, and on top of that, not only the actual message being spread to the American people and the world is inconsistent right now. So the actual words being used are inconsistent, and then the way in which they're being presented is also inconsistent.
Yes. So
yeah, and that's making things so much worse.
Back when we worked in like incident command, so like when we worked for a local health department, there is an incident command structure within local government that dictates how you respond to emergencies like this. And I had to go, I think, like I mentioned last time, to lots and lots of hours of training around public health messaging specifically because my role was as public information officer, which is like the liaison between the people who know what's going on and the media. So like, oh my God, I'm so glad that I don't have to do that now. Holy shit, that sounds like so stressful. I'm so glad that like the time I spent in that role was like between SARS and now, and like Ebola and now. Okay, but anyway, like they emphasize so much that like you have to be clear and you have to like emphasize your message a lot to get it across. Otherwise it induces panic. And that's kind of like what we're seeing. It's just, like it's the worst case scenario. It's like, it would be like the example of what not to do in like, so I don't know. So for people who are feeling like nervous or unsure or whatever, like that is a logical response to something like this. I will say that this is probably like, so not last Thursday, but the Thursday before. So like actually, I guess exactly 2 weeks ago today, before I went to California.
Yeah.
When did I go? Okay, yeah. Okay, so exactly 2 weeks ago today is when I was like, oh shit, I think this is gonna be really bad. I remember. And even like last week, I still didn't think, I don't know. So I know a lot of people, actually, I was wondering, how are you feeling about like them canceling like all NCAA activities and stuff?
It really hurts my heart, knowing, having been an NCAA athlete, it hurts my heart for these kids because they're kids.
Exactly.
Who have worked their whole lives to get to these meets, and then they're just canceled. It hurts my heart badly. And especially when, I understand the precaution, but also like, I definitely support the no spectators thing, but also like, I don't necessarily know that the events themselves, like NCAA indoor track and field championships, needed to just be completely canceled. Yeah. I understand no spectators, but canceling it completely, that might be taking it a little bit too far. And granted, I could eat these words 5 days from now, but for what we know right now, that's too much. I mean, look at the Tokyo Marathon, right? Yeah. All they did was shrink the field to elites only, who, one, aren't going to show up if they're sick, because what's the point of running a marathon if you're not going to do well at the elite level? And 2, that's a pretty small select field, and nobody got sick.
Yeah.
It was something Japan did to flatten the curve without having to disrupt the economy too much or actually like interrupt people's livelihoods.
Yeah.
It's about balance.
Yeah. So it definitely made me feel better that like, oh, okay, even though like leadership at the top levels is not communicating like a unified message and is honestly like really downplaying the threat, like there are people in high up in organizations that are taking it seriously to, like you said, flatten the curve. But the other thing is that, and like I'm sure this has been like beaten into both of our heads, but like when public health works, it seems like an overreaction. So like either this will seem silly that like we canceled all of March Madness and all NCAA sports, and I don't know, those were the 2 things that mattered to me, but like baseball and all of that stuff, like either it'll seem like we way overreacted or like it's still going to be really bad.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look at how we eradicated smallpox. We eradicated smallpox with a total violation of human rights.
Yeah, but it worked.
And I am not advocating for violation of human rights at all, but it did eradicate smallpox. Yeah. And that part of it's really cool. So it's one of those things where at the time, if I had been living it, I would have been like, literally, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But in hindsight, I'm like, wow, thanks. I'm so glad they did that. Yeah. I have never had to worry about smallpox in my whole life. Right. Another thing, just like being somebody who went to school for 6 years, which I know isn't that long compared to a lot of people, but you know, maybe someday I'll go back. Anyway, like going to school for 6 years to literally learn how to take scientific concepts and then be able to explain them to someone who is 5 years old.
Yes,
or
that's what a health educator
has a 7th grade reading level.
Yes.
Yeah, like
which
I'm so irritated. So irritated.
Yeah. So when we talk about that like incident command structure, when my job was public information officer, Morgan's job was exit education. So like that means
No, mine that day we did that thing was just a volunteer trainer, and I was like, this is not a good utilization of my skills. I wasn't even in exit education.
Oh, the day that there was that the drill. I was out on
that drill that we
medical leave at the time. But like wasn't your like official position as exit education?
No, I was moved to a PIO.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense too because you have like a lot of experience in messaging. But anyway, like Morgan's skills would have best been used as like an exit education coordinator because like she's a certified health educator. And that means that like you just said, you're really good at breaking down scientific messages in a way that like makes it interesting and useful to people, which is why I like talking to you about this stuff. Okay. So I think I'm like having a hard time just with like life.
Yeah, it's a lot. And it's just like the coronavirus, COVID-19 is happening like literally a pandemic, which isn't great. And it's very distracting. Yeah. But then on top of all of that, we had Super Tuesday round 2 this week. Yeah. And a bunch of things that were terrible about that. And we have just the general, authoritarian government slowly gaining more power in the United States and the world.
Yes, that is always like on the back burner in my mind, along with climate change. Like just those 2 things like constantly there. And then on top of that, okay, cool, we have a pandemic, which when you have incompetent leadership, which is basically like what's going on in our country. I mean, like there are positions that are unfilled that have to do with pandemic response, like
he eliminated a whole group of people whose jobs were to work on infectious disease
which there
outbreaks.
Will always be more of. There will never not be. I mean, unless there's always going to be a need for that. So it's just like the leadership, like the authoritarian styles that they have, like make this is kind of like the worst case fucking scenario, is like, this is what we were worried would happen. I mean, like, Puerto Rico was really bad. The Hurricane Maria. Duh.
Yeah, Hurricane Maria.
But yeah, this is really, really bad. So I'm like kind of glad that, I don't know. I mean, I feel awful, but like, and I don't know. A lot of my close friends know this, but I don't know how much I talk about it. But like, I live with my mom, who is terminally ill and very immunocompromised. So like, I don't know. It just was really nice to hear like somebody taking it seriously, I guess. So I don't know. It was like, oh, okay, people are really getting it, that like, I don't know. Do you have any like predictions?
Exactly.
I mean, predictions are not really fun. Okay, wait. I'll tell you my prediction, and you can tell me if you think I'm overreacting. How does that sound?
Okay.
I mean, without a doubt, those kind of like closures will definitely flatten the curve, but I would still say within like 2 to 3 weeks, I think hospital systems will probably be pretty overwhelmed. And I guess we'll kind of just like see to the extent, and like, I'm not trying to say that to alarm anybody, maybe just to like prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, there's a certain inevitability,
right,
which is a really hard word to say, but to this outbreak in the U.S. There is, and that's not me trying to be pessimistic. That's just how it is. I mean, that's how the flu is every year too. There's just a level of inevitability to it. The good news is 8 out of 10 people who do contract COVID-19 are fine. Like they think they have a bad cold or maybe the flu. But what's not good news is that 2 out of those 10 people get really, really ill.
Yeah.
And
it's like, not a fun illness to have.
Totally sucks. Like, that's not cool. And if enough of the population contracts an illness where 2 out of every 10 end up with severe health complications, possibly hospitalized, that is a huge strain on our medical system.
Yeah.
And like, there's just a level of inevitability to this that we just straight up aren't prepared for. Our medical system's not prepared for. It's kind of like, even a few years ago, we saw this in a lot of, especially smaller hospitals, right? The flu was just really bad that year. The flu vaccination just didn't cover the strain that was really getting people. A lot of people got sick. A lot of those people who got sick included hospital personnel, which meant that the hospitals were short-staffed, which meant that they had a huge influx of people being hospitalized for flu at the same time they were short-staffed. It was not great. At the time, I was working for a really large healthcare system, so that's how I know this, because it was a big problem for us all. And this is kind of like that kind of thing, right? If enough people get it, it's really going to be a huge strain on our system that we're not prepared for, in addition to just a whole bunch of other things, right, that we're just not prepared for and straight up like don't want to have to deal with, but will have to a point. And what also is just really unfortunate is that what a lot of it boils down to is the privilege of young, healthy people just kind of being able to live their lives and saying like, oh, not that big of a deal, I won't get that sick from it.
Yeah.
And so it really puts the onus on people who are older, people who are immunocompromised, people who might have a condition that is going to make it really dangerous for them to get this. So, that could be your 10-year-old nephew who has type 1 diabetes. That could be someone like your mom. That's someone like my grandpa or my aunt. And like, that's the really shitty part is it's just with so many big global or national problems and crises, like why is all of the effort always ending up on the shoulders of the people who are the most at risk and the most disenfranchised? Like, that's not cool.
Yeah, because we could have predicted it. Like, and if you can predict it, you can prevent it. And it's just like a bummer that there's like so many missed opportunities. Yeah.
And that sucks. It sucks for a lot of people. And even if you're 21 and you're just fine when you got COVID-19, well, there still could potentially be more than just a few days of a bad stock market too that may affect a lot of people's retirement.
I'm not even going to pretend to know about that.
Yeah, like there's just a lot of implications beyond, like, oh, it's not that bad of a virus. I mean, to a lot of people it's not, but to a lot of people it also is. And there are implications beyond just like how sick you may or may not get.
Right.
Too.
You could be a vector to somebody who can't afford to like get this and recover because they won't. They don't have the ability. So just, I don't know. Yeah. Act in favor of other people. So yeah.
And try to see beyond just like the right now and think about, some of the economic and social implications of things like this.
Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to like
my political action of the week too, which is like, hey, if a lot of schools in your area are closed, don't forget that also means a lot of children won't get to eat.
Yeah.
Like support your local food banks right now. Especially if schools around you are closing, they might really, 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 really need it. Yeah. Especially if you live somewhere where like a lot of basic essentials have also been swiped off of the shelves by people who can afford to go out and doomsday prep.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, I know feeding kids should not be a political issue, but somehow in America it has become one. So we gotta talk about it.
Yeah. I wonder if a lot of people know about the summer feeding program, which I assume exists everywhere, but it at least exists where we used to live. But because for a lot of kids, school lunches is the only time or one of the only times that they get like full meals. For whatever circumstances, it doesn't matter. And they're children and they deserve to eat. So even though schools are out for the summer, often, especially in neighborhoods that there's a high population of low-income people, have the schools, or it's not always schools. Actually, we were looking into maybe being a summer feeding program site at one point that got shot down by somebody who doesn't like to try new things. Anyway, not bitter about it. But
no, not bitter at all.
I don't want to put it on this podcast, but you also are not a huge fan of this person, and it has to do kind of with that day that you got in trouble for wearing pants, like those red pants. Yeah, okay. I'll tell you later. It doesn't matter.
Okay, that was still one of the worst days of my life as a professional.
Sorry.
Oh my God.
That was so stupid. Okay, anyway. Morgan got in trouble for wearing work pants to work. They had like a zipper and everything. Somebody complained to...
Yeah.
And like
those are like my favorite pants. Yeah. They're so cute.
They are so cute. Somebody's mad that you're hot. That's like all it boils down to.
I mean, non-sponsored, hey, at us, Old Navy, but they're stretchy Old Navy pixie pants. Like they're sold to be worn to work. That's the whole point.
Promo code FYMI. I wish. Okay, so anyway, what was I talking about? Why did summer feeding program. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. Yes, so there's a summer feeding program. So kids, anybody, you can roll up. Well, not anybody, but like anybody in a kid's family, you can roll up to a school or a health department or whatever, wherever your summer feeding program location is, and they will just give you a lunch. And we used to go there and do education events, and it was pretty good partnership, I would say. But yeah, it's cool that service is offered, because otherwise a lot of kids don't get their nutritional needs met. So I think that's a really good political action of the week.
Yeah. And if you are looking for volunteer opportunities, programs like that in the summer always can use volunteers, whether that's with like cleanup and food prep or education like we did. And it's really fun, actually.
Yeah. They like love, I don't know, we would bring like dental stuff about toothbrushing and like rethink your drink about drinking less sugar sweetened beverages, and they freaking loved it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a blast.
I don't know if I feel better, but I feel validated.
It's nice to have a friend that shares your existential dread.
Yes. Okay. So I felt kind of down this week, and then I was like writing this, and I was thinking about what like actions I was going to put at the end. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know. I was pleasantly impressed by like that I'd still been doing stuff, even though I felt like dying most of the week because everything is terrible. But so what we decided was, instead of covering like something current, because everything current feels like it's on fire, you said,
including the polar ice cap.
Yeah.
What? Sorry.
You said that you didn't know that much about Watergate, right?
No, I don't. I know like the basics,
Yes.
right? Like I know that's like wiretapping.
Yeah.
People talked about Watergate a lot during the Trump impeachment and during the Mueller thing, and even with James Comey. And I'm like, scary, but that's really all I know about it. And like, I even asked my parents, and they were like, I don't know. We were like,
they were too
babies.
Young. Exactly.
They're like,
we
saw Nixon on TV.
Right. In my head, like, I can ask my parents about like any political goings on, and they'll be like, yes, I remember. And I asked my stepdad, and he was like, I don't know. I was like 11. I was like, oh, shit. Okay. So, but I've always felt kind of like dumb because I'm like, everybody knows about Watergate. I should know more about Watergate. But that's not our fault. Like, nobody explained it to us in an interesting way. So, but it is really interesting.
They don't teach that in school.
So, most of what I learned about it was from Slow Burn, which you said you started listening to, right? Did you get very far?
I might have listened to the whole first season.
Good. So
I am obsessed.
Exactly. It's fascinating.
Oh my God.
And it also, so there are a lot of parallels between Trump's impeachment and Nixon's impeachment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it is really interesting, but like, it's just interesting in general. So, okay. Why don't we like, have you ever listened to Stuff You Should Know? The podcast?
Yes.
Okay. So you know how Josh and Clark, no. Yes.
Chuck.
No. Chuck.
Josh and Chuck.
Josh Clark is his last name. Okay, anyway.
And Chuck Bryant.
What? What'd you say?
Josh Clark and Chuck Bryant.
Yes.
Right?
Okay. Yeah. So you know how they just kind of like explain it together? Can we just like try and explain it together?
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, let's definitely do that. I'll probably still like forget half of what I listened to during that podcast because I was multitasking, which I know nobody should do. But here are all the notes on my phone that I took about
that's a lot. Yeah. Oh my God, that is so much.
Every time I heard something that made me say, what the fuck? I wrote it down, and that was like literally everything.
So I usually write out not like a script per se, but like just stuff I want to get to before we like hang up. This is going to be a really long episode. I'm sorry, everybody. Watergate is fucking fascinating. Okay, but usually they're like,
we'll make it a 2-parter bonus episode Wednesday.
Usually the scripts that I write are like 1 or 2 pages. This one is 4 pages, single spaced.
Yeah,
I have thoughts. Okay. So I'm just going to start. It's going to be like kind of like a broad overview, and you can like interject whenever, of course.
Yeah, if we get too into the weeds, we will be here forever. Until November.
Yeah. Okay, so basically, I think I got into it a couple years ago because Trump has done so many things that he could be impeached for. When the House decided to impeach him for obstruction of justice and whatever else, the other thing, that was just because it was like incredibly egregious. Like they were like, oh, well, definitely, like this is like an open and shut case of abuse of power. Like we can go forward with this. Like it's so easy to prove. He did it out in the open. He tried to hide it. Like we could go on forever. But like before that, there was plenty of stuff that he could be impeached for.
Yeah, so many.
Like
things.
We don't even have to go into it, but like emoluments, I don't know. There's
even
a lot.
Just like the way the founding fathers framed impeachable offenses.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a crime.
high crimes,
Yes.
which basically just means like crimes that a president shouldn't commit.
Yeah.
Not necessarily things that are against the law, just things that are not something a president should do.
Right.
Because our founding fathers had like very like specific views on the type of person who should be a president. Yeah. And Donald Trump, not it. Not it.
And so they like foresaw that somebody like Donald Trump might become president. So
they knew we would fuck this whole thing up.
Because people like that are attracted to power.
Yeah.
So, by the way, that book that you recommended, I already bought it. So we can do, we can do a book review soon.
Yes. So excited.
What's it called? The Politics of Power?
Yeah, it's got a very long title, but The Politics of Power are like the first half.
How to Move Beyond Political Hobbyism, Take Action, and Make Real Change by Yetan Hirsch. It sounds like a really good... Okay, so I'm excited. I'll probably binge some of that after this. But why did I bring that up? This is what it's like to talk to me.
Because of our founding fathers knowing that we were going to elect somebody like Trump someday. But you know what? We elected Nixon before we elected Trump. And when I say we, I mean, I don't know.
Not our
a lot of people who probably are not alive anymore because of my parents. My mom was 2 when all of that went down. Like the original thing, not the actual impeachment, but when the actual like Watergate burglary thing went down, she was 2 years old. So she had no idea what the fuck was going on.
So like they saw that Trump might be a thing. What they didn't anticipate is that all the Republicans in Congress, except for Mitt Romney, would be complicit, you know? So that's the difference between like what happened with Watergate and what happened with Trump is that the Republicans in Congress could see all of the crimes that Richard Nixon was doing and decided to impeach him. But it took a while.
Yeah, like they had a backbone. It took them a while to get there.
Yeah.
But once things came to light, they were like, oh, this is bad. We never should have tried to cover this up. We're sorry that we did. Let's make it right. Whereas now they just doubled down.
Yes, exactly.
They just doubled down on it all now. And I don't know if that's because they're being paid more money.
I have theories. Don't worry.
I am here for the theory.
Okay. So big picture, it's just like a disgusting abuse of power. It was less about the crime and more about the attempted cover-up of the crime by Nixon and the White House. So the scandal began when 5 men were arrested for breaking into the Democratic Party offices in 1972, and it ended in 1974 with Nixon resigning, in disgrace, basically. So several men were trying to get President Richard Nixon reelected with the Committee to Reelect the President, or CREEP, which is like the most apt acronym ever. So they decided they wanted to spy on the Democratic Party. So they hatched a plan to break into the Democratic Party offices in the Watergate building. So on May 11th, they broke into the offices and then they took photographs of secret documents, placed wiretaps on the phone, and they got away with it. And then they tried to break in again in June, and then they were caught for amateur shit, putting tape on the doors so that they wouldn't lock behind them, a security guard found them. So it's fucking amateur hour over here. But so something that we understand now that we didn't really understand then, or people probably didn't really understand then, is that Nixon stoked fear of the civil rights movement to appeal to racist white people, basically. So yep, it's fucking racist white people again. And he won re-election by doing that. That kind of shit works. When you otherize people and you try and polarize people and you have in-group out-group shit, what Trump is doing, he's very much us and them stuff. It fucking works. It makes me really nervous for November because
if you get people emotional instead of thinking,
yes,
they love it.
Yeah. So so basically he won re-election by doing that, by stoking fear and racial resentment. So even though the Watergate scandal had already happened, he basically tried to gaslight everybody into believing that it wasn't a big deal while simultaneously doing a lot of stuff to try and cover it up, which sounds familiar, right?
Yeah.
That's
I was
Trump did.
I just in my notes, I wrote, fuck, this is familiar, 18 different times.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So I mean, there was a lot of stuff that they tried to do to cover it up, but probably like the worst and like most sensational one was what they did to Martha Mitchell. Do you want to talk about Martha Mitchell?
Yeah, I can do that. So John Mitchell was the Attorney General for Nixon in his first term, and his wife Martha was well known as being kind of a gossip.
Yeah.
And that's putting it lightly. But yeah, so she liked to eavesdrop, but that included eavesdropping on her husband's illegal political activities.
Right.
And so when the like Watergate botched burglary thing happened, a friend of her and her husband's was involved. James, I think first name McCord.
But not only was she famous for eavesdropping, she was famous for eavesdropping and then getting a little bit drunk and then calling reporters. So like that's what got her in trouble, is that like important stuff would leak out. But okay, so that's why like
I like love and hate her.
I know. I thought did you like hear any clips of her talking?
Yes,
she's got a lot of personality.
Like, who is this person? This lady is spicy.
Yes.
Yeah. So she was like, so her husband had to fly back. They were in California. Her husband had to fly back to D.C. when all this started going down. And he told Steve King, who was an FBI agent, former FBI agent, and not the same shitty Steve King from Iowa, but a different shitty Steve King. How are there two
Steve King in our government? One is elected and one is appointed.
Yeah, like
thanks, Iowa.
So anyway, yeah, I know, right? Ugh, Iowa, come on. At least we could have had the Steve King that wasn't elected. Yeah. Gross. Anyway, so she was and Steve King was supposed to like babysit her and make sure that she didn't find out about the Watergate thing, which you give me a woman, any woman, especially a woman like this who like
she's
prides
tenacious.
herself on being a nosy bitch. Yeah. And she's like, and I mean that like in the kindest possible way. Like she's the good kind of nosy bitch.
Yeah, yeah.
And she's like, I'm going to figure out what happened. And so she did. And so she tried to call her husband and was like, hey, you got to tell me the truth. Like, tell me what happened. And he like wouldn't, but she figured it out. And then she got drunk, of course. Probably not even that drunk though. She just like is a person who I consider myself as kind of a person who people frequently think is drunk when I'm actually just very excited. And I relate.
Okay, so, I've never gotten that vibe. I mean, like,
oh, thank you.
I've never thought you were drunk. I mean, you do get very excited, like, but
I do.
But I've never thought you were drunk.
Yeah, I was like, I've been places before, like parties where I'm just drinking water, and people will be like, "Oh my gosh, how much have you had?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just having water." Or like, I had a sip of somebody's beer, and I just am excited. Yeah. So I get it. I totally get it, and I'm like, you know what, Martha, do your thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she called a friend of hers who is also a reporter. So she called over this reporter, Helen Thomas, and was like just kind of talking, making some small talk, and then got around to talking about her husband's, quote, dirty business that he was involved with related to Nixon. And then the phone line went dead because Steve King, the other shitty Steve King, literally like assaulted her. He grabbed her. He pulled the phone out of the wall. He locked her in a room to keep her like prisoner and fought with her. She claims that he kicked her. She ended up seriously injured on her hand from broken glass. Like it was like she was assaulted by this man just because she knew too much.
Yeah.
And they tranquilized her.
Exactly. Like, a doctor came in and tranquilized her.
Oh my God. She was like kept a political prisoner by her husband's friends.
Yes, by a former, or was he in the FBI at the time? I don't know, but I know he used to be.
I think he might have been a former even at the time. But
so, and he has never faced any consequences for it. He doesn't even deny it, and he's never faced any consequences for it. So they basically like called her a liar. They tried to ruin her reputation. They like smeared her.
Yeah, they painted her as just like this drunken nutball.
Which
and
is
she like
how they treat
She
women.
knew
so
Nixon
often.
was behind it, and they were like, "No, we're going to paint you poorly, just like they."
Yep.
I mean, they've been doing that to women forever.
Gaslighting. Yep.
Yeah.
So
And
never punished, and now he is ambassador to the Czech Republic. Trump appointed him to be ambassador to the Czech Republic because Kevin's got Kevin's back. They stick together.
Yeah, because of course. So that, like, seriously, that is the story that I had never heard before, anything about Martha Mitchell. And when I was like, oh, what's this whole thing? Oh, it's Steve King. Oh, a different Steve King.
Yeah.
Martha Mitchell. Who's that? Read her story and was like,
oh my God, I can't believe more people don't know about this. Yeah.
How do people not know about this?
Yeah. Yep. So a guy who did that got away with it. And then Trump was like, hey, you want to be ambassador to the Czech Republic? And he was like, sure.
Yeah. He's like, hey, you like gaslighting women? I, too, like to paint everyone else as the crazy one.
Right.
Come, join me and my other crazy friends. Just make sure you kiss my ass.
Yeah. Yep. So she was right. And if people took her seriously, Watergate would have played out a lot sooner. She ended up divorcing her husband because she lost respect for him because he was protecting Nixon rather than doing the right thing, which makes me like a Barbara Mitchell stan.
Yeah. Like, I was like, you go, girl. Like, good for you.
Yeah. So, life rule, fucking believe women. Like, we are rational actors, and a lot of good would happen if people would just believe women. False accusations are just an incredibly, incredibly rare thing and an awful thing and should be treated, should be, like, prosecuted. False accusations should, but, like, that almost never happens, also, like, and people just need to, as a society, we need to shift towards just believing women.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just believe women. And again, this is also just kind of another little reminder that just because she likes to drink doesn't mean she deserves to be treated any particular way. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Good night.
Yes. So that was like kind of a parallel that I saw in that, like, Marie Yovanovitch and Fiona Hill were really, really compelling, credible, powerful witnesses in Trump's impeachment trials in the House. But the Republicans in Congress aren't brave enough to stand up to Trump, except for Mitt Romney, who once drove on the highway with his family dog strapped in his crate to the roof of his car. So, like, that's the good Republican. Did you know that about him?
Oh my God, I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, he put his family dog in a dog crate and then strapped it to the roof of his, like, minivan or SUV or whatever, and then drove on the highway. And obviously the dog was, like, fucking terrified and probably really cold and, like, shit itself and stuff. Like, that's the Republicans' like moral compass. Like a dude who thinks it's cool to put a dog in a crate on top of your car. So he's the one.
Okay, and it's like, is he stupid or evil?
I don't know.
Or a little mix of both.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. I don't know. It's hard. Ugh. It's hard. It's a really hard game.
It is. It's like the never-ending game.
Yeah. So he's the like good Republican in progress. So I don't know. The lesson I think then is just to like trust your instincts. If something seems like too crazy to be true, but all signs point to it being true, don't just dismiss it. So yeah, there's a lot of similarities between what happened with Watergate and what happened with Trump's impeachment. Both faced FBI investigations. Both were accused of obstructing justice. Both of them called the investigations witch hunts. And
yeah, the whole attack of the media thing. I was like, whoa, there was familiar. A whole lot of like the bad media. They didn't use the term fake news then, but they used a whole lot of synonyms that just really was like, wow, we're slamming the media. Yeah. How are we still doing this? We're meddling in primary elections also? Like, red shady string everywhere. So much red yarn.
All the way to the top.
All the way to the top.
And they both worked really hard initially to cover up the crimes they committed. So we live in much different times than when our parents were like in grade school or 2 or whatever. And the major difference between how Trump's impeachment played out and how Nixon's impeachment played out is Fox News. Like, there is no liberal equivalent to Fox News. And the way that the media environment is set up now is such that you can live in your own, especially conservative bubble. But so there used to be 3 nightly broadcast stations that aired for 30 minutes a night, and they all pretty much said the same things. Like, there was no 24-hour news, there was no Twitter, there were no push notifications. Like, doesn't that sound relaxing?
Yes. Oh my gosh. In college, one of my journalism classes, we talked about the way that the 24-hour news cycle changed America and the way that we digest news. And I was really just thinking, hi, can we go back?
Yeah.
Because that sounds much more relaxing.
Yes. So that meant that Democrats and Republicans were getting the same news. And they
got along better.
Exactly. And there was much higher trust in the mainstream media. 69% of Americans expressed trust in the mainstream media back then. So they wanted to listen to people like Walter Cronkite, and they believed him when he explained things to them. And they should have, because the mainstream media largely gets things right. And when they don't, which happens in journalism sometimes, they correct the record. But today, due in large part to Trump and Republican leadership talking shit about the press for years now, people don't trust the mainstream media. But of course they don't. He's doing crimes all over the place, and journalists are the ones who are supposed to be objectively reporting on those crimes. So of course he's going to try and discredit them. So that lack of trust opens up a market for right-wing news, in air quotes, to tell it like it is, aka stoke fear and racial resentment to get old people to keep tuning in. And they basically just exist in this closed conservative news loop. You can just watch Fox News and not get a lot of really important information. So, okay, sorry, go ahead.
I just feel it's so much like today with the liberals and the media, and they were so consumed with that, they were so consumed with shooting the messenger that they literally forgot to care about the corruption happening in their government that should matter, because that kind of behavior hurts all Americans and all of America, except for the people at the very top doing the crimes. And it's just really is we should care about these things. But and so often I feel today it's if a Democrat does it, and it's all right, well, get the torches, get the pitchforks, we're coming after them. Look at the Katie Hill thing that happened. Katie Hill had a consensual, albeit not ideal relationship going with a staffer. Yeah. And it was time to get her out. She better resign or we'll literally kill her. In fact, people were following, tailing her mother, to look for her. That's terrifying. And yet, a Republican does the same thing or worse.
Or something that affects actual constituents, like embezzling money, or like Duncan Hunter did. Sorry, go ahead.
And they just don't care. They either don't care,
or they don't just find out
that's not that big of a deal, or they're that didn't happen.
Yeah. So it's not great.
Why has this been happening for so many decades at this point?
Okay, so I have decided that everything, whenever we ask that question, it basically comes down to either white supremacy, Mitch McConnell, who is a white supremacist, probably, and Fox News. Those 3 things are I don't know, they're I don't know. I'm glad we're doing this episode, because I feel I can't articulate how I feel about Fox News and the damage that it is doing to our country well in everyday conversation, when people are oh yeah, my uncle watches Fox News or whatever, and it's oh, that is a sign that he is being manipulated. Okay, I'll talk. I'll talk more about it later. But so according to a Pew Research poll, 40% of voters got their news exclusively. 40% of Trump voters got their news exclusively from Fox, which is a huge base number. So no more impartial Walter Cronkite telling them what's going on. It's racist Fox News anchors repeating over and over that it's not a big deal. So when Nixon was getting impeached, he would say like, hey, nothing to see here. And then Walter Cronkite would be like, no, this is a big deal. But now most people tune in and Trump is like, it was a perfect phone call. And people turn into Fox and they see like Sean Hannity or Tucker Carlson being like, yep, it was a perfect phone call. But you can like barely hear them because they're like, never mind.
Yeah, no, I remember something along those lines. I don't remember who it was, and I apologize for that, but journalists went around to people at a Trump rally, mm-hmm. and they were like, what do you think about like the tapes or the transcripts? And he was like, it's perfect transcripts. All you gotta do is read the transcripts and he's innocent. And the journalist was like, did you read the transcripts? And the people all said, no, mm-hmm. I haven't read the transcripts. But he said that they're perfect, right. So I believe him.
Right.
And he
so
was
it's
like,
all
well,
he needs to say.
what about these people who said that it wasn't a perfect phone call and that if you read the transcripts, it actually is very incriminating? And they're mm-hmm. like, oh, I don't believe them. Mm-hmm. You can't believe everything people say. And it's like the cognitive dissonance there to say you can't believe everything people say on one hand, and then literally 2 seconds later say, but I believe him for what he said is like, do you hear yourself when you speak? If you wrote that down on paper and had to read it, would it make more sense? Like, it just, and I saw so many similarities between the Trump apologists and the Nixon apologists here along those same kind of lines. And I was just like, oh no.
Yeah.
And like when they issued those subpoenas to Nixon and he was like, nah, I'm good. Like, I'm not going to turn over this stuff. He claimed it was to like, quote, protect the office of the presidency, which, so like at first some conservatives and the general public were like, yeah, that's true. We do need to stand by the office of the president. It's the highest the highest elected position in the whole world, which is a very similar sentiment that people have now related to the Trump impeachment. And yet, like, into his second term, as one does apparently, and hopefully we don't find this out about Trump, but Nixon really started to like amp up the autocrat.
Yeah.
And that's finally when the people with a backbone who were either conservative Democrats or just moderate Republicans who like had morals were like, you know what? We're going to leave your side now because we don't want any part of this. This is disrespecting the office of the president. And if you're disrespecting the office of the president as president, you are disrespecting the American people.
Yeah.
And you have no business in that role. Would Trump's henchmen do that same thing today? I don't know. And I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so. But a big part of that is because politics is so polarized today. So like you said, people used to get along, like their views used to be closer together. So politicians are forced to take a side, and then if they come out against Trump, then Fox News will talk shit about them for basically like siding with the enemy, as if Democrats are enemies, like, and they think that they won't be able to get elected that way. So instead of putting country over party, they're putting party over country and their jobs over like the future of the country, because they have no courage. So it's a Congress full of Kevins who lack leadership qualities. And every Republican in Congress, except for Mitt Romney, did the math and decided that they'd rather be complicit in Trump's crimes than vote to remove him for all of those crimes, right? Like, that's all it is.
Yeah, and they were. And, we'll probably never really know, like, the level of complicit that some of them were, like, just how involved. Like, Gerald Ford, right? He went on to replace Nixon after Nixon resigned. And then cleared Nixon of all the charges. Like, he's like, nah, he's fine. He's cool. We're going to forgive him or whatever. I don't know. How much was he paid? Yeah. What was he told he would get? Like, I mean, maybe nothing. Again, I'm not here to like say like, Gerald Ford's the worst and we should slander his name after his death. That's not what I'm getting at. But
Nixon's obviously not like, above trying something like that.
Yeah. Like this kind of stuff, like this is deep stuff. Like this goes way all the way to the top.
Yeah.
It goes, it's not okay. And there was just so many people like Nixon, but maybe not quite as complicit, but still should have probably faced some kind of consequence that never did. I mean, even George Bush Sr. was the chairman of the Republican committee during all of this. And there were a whole lot of rebuttals to everything against Nixon that were very reminiscent of, but her email.
Yeah.
Like, it was very like, okay, yeah. So Nixon might have said that he would pay $2 million to keep these people hush on the whole thing. But did you know that guy, like, one time kicked a dog?
Yeah, so that's like a red flag anytime somebody uses an argument like that, because they are changing the subject. It doesn't have anything to do with that. So I don't know. Yeah, that's just another like thing to look out for, I guess.
Yeah, again, it is another thing to look out for. Ronald Reagan, another one here, who called the like team of people involved in Watergate, he called them well-meaning. He felt like
very
they were
fine people on both sides.
Yeah, and that's what made me think, holy shit, is the only thing Trump ever studied
He's not even original.
Entire life. Yeah, right? I'm like, the only thing he's ever studied in his entire life must be his own ugly face and Nixon.
Yeah.
Seriously, I think all he's ever done is look in a mirror and learn about Nixon, and it's like, great, I want to be just like that guy, only because we live in a much more divisive society, we can get people to just double down on all my bullshit, and I will never have to resign as president.
His wife said that he used to read Hitler speeches, like study Hitler speeches. I believe it.
Honestly, yeah, I do too.
So back to Fox News. There's only like a very few people who work at Fox that are actual journalists. So most of the shows on that station are talk show hosts like pretending to be journalists. And there's like no differentiation between like which segment is a news show and which segment is a talk show. So journalists' goal is to find out and deliver the truth, and talk show hosts' goals is to get people to keep watching their show. So people basically tune in to like Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson to have their bigotry like reaffirmed by these like racist, sexist assholes who absorb today's media environment. Who absorb everything they say as fact instead of looking at it critically. Like the people in the crowd at the Trump rally that you were talking about. So yeah, that's just like my best explanation for how today's media environment is failing us. Like, it's engineered to be that way by Rupert Murdoch at Fox News, which probably needs to be like its own. I don't know. We might be covering it enough here, but there's like a huge part of the population that only gets their news in this conservative bubble that's pretending to deliver news, but is only really making its viewers angry enough to tune back in tomorrow. So that's what's happening to all our racist uncles.
Which brings me to the most important thing to save democracy. Mike Bloomberg, are you listening? Buy Fox News. Buy Fox News.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's a listener.
Yeah, Mike Bloomberg, definitely a listener, especially after like 2 episodes ago we told everybody how much he sucks. Really, Mike Bloomberg.
That's why he dropped out of the race.
Yeah, exactly. You can be exonerated completely if you buy Fox News and then immediately
I will never talk shit about you again if you buy Fox News. That would be such like a service to the country.
If you buy Fox News, Mike Bloomberg, I will let you pet both of my dogs, even in the weird way that you like shake their noses or whatever. I'll allow it. They'll allow it. They will be proud of you because they too hate Fox News and Donald Trump.
Because they're good boys and girls.
Yeah. So, if anybody listening, like,
if you could get that message to Mike Bloomberg,
just like pass it on. My dogs won't bite him. They'll just be very confused, by the way. He pets dogs, but it's fine because he saved the world by buying Fox News.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
That, like, I don't know. I'm sure we'll do another episode about it. But, like, he has the hoarded, accumulated wealth to be able to do that, which, like, no one person should ever be able to accumulate that much wealth. Anyway, that's for another time.
I will even donate. If he's like, hey, I'm $5 short, I'll be like, got you.
Sure. Okay, so
just give me a job there too. Like, that would be cool. Thanks.
Maybe. Yeah, we could make it something nice.
Yeah, and like we'll ensure that women aren't like treated creepily there, and
you can't like talk
we'll
to
make
them
it
like
cool.
objects, like Chris Matthews.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Yeah, exactly. And we won't even like announce that Fox News is now cool. We'll just like slowly turn the tide, and our creepy uncles will have no idea. They'll just be like brainwashed into well, I
they'll
can't
just
even say
be like
brainwashed.
chanting like our bodies, our choices, or like her body, her choice.
Exactly.
It's like, oh yay,
they won't even know why.
Yeah.
They'll just next time they open their mouth,
I
they
believe
have
you
no
should
idea
have
what they're
bodily autonomy
saying.
now. Weird.
Yeah, they'll be like, vote for women. What? I don't even know what I'm saying, but I kind of like it. I feel good. And we'll be like, yeah, that's right. They'll be super confused by like why neither of us are blonde, and it's fine. I'll get a Brazilian blowout.
Have you ever done that? I did. I've gotten 2. I liked it.
Yeah, my mom did, and she hated it. Yeah, I kind of hated it a little bit too, just because it made my mom look different.
Yeah.
And I think I was like 22 when she did it, and I was like, Mom, I've never seen you with your hair like this, and it's pretty, like, objectively, but I need you to not do it again. I need you to stop.
What about her body, her choice, Morgan?
Her body, her choice.
It's okay.
You can do whatever you want with your hair.
Yeah, I get it.
But it was very weird to me.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so anyway, like without Fox News, Trump never would have gotten away with extorting the Ukrainian president and unquestionable abuse of power, because they were able to spin it in a way that made it impossible for people to understand when they have to like go to work and raise their kids and get an oil change or whatever. They just like, there's so much going on, and it's designed to be that way. Again, it's designed for you to feel overwhelmed. They're trying to do that to you. But
yeah, none of this is on accident.
Yeah. So we try to break it down to like the shit that actually matters, but, and like keep our eye on the prize, which is taking back the Senate and I don't know, stuff like that, getting more women elected, the stuff that makes democracy better. Because right now, I think it's 25% of the House is female and like 26% of the Senate, which is not a representative democracy. So there.
Yeah, that's really uncool.
It's so uncool. But for now, pretend that we live in a world where Fox News doesn't exist because it's the 70s. So as the Watergate scandal grew, Nixon called it a witch hunt. Oh, I kind of already said that. Some conservative media threw out some conspiracy theories, but they couldn't overcome the overarching correct narrative that he was guilty as fuck. So Fox News has so much sway over so much of the media ecosystem that there was enough confusion during Trump's impeachment hearings that all the Republican senators, except for Mitt Romney, voted for him to remain in office, which is the other problem. So Fox News is a huge problem. Mitch McConnell is a huge problem. And just Republicans in Congress in general are a huge problem. Because they also get their news from Fox News. And so does the president. It's insane. So like, and have you seen that study that like tracks what show he's watching and what he's tweeting and then like matches them up?
Yes, and also, but not in a most recent time. So I have, but it was a while ago.
Yeah.
And I need to get back on that.
Well, it's just like really, it's all you need to know. Abby came to visit.
Yeah.
Sorry.
She needed some snuggles.
Hi. She's so distracting, but like in a good way.
She's such a sweet little thing.
But yeah, so there's a correlation between like what Sean Hannity is talking about in the morning, basically, and then like what Donald Trump is tweeting and thinking and doing, which is just like an insane way to run a country. So
he will just parrot whatever they're saying on Fox News.
Yep.
Only with his own weird, I don't even know what you call the way he speaks.
I don't know. Dementia? I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
So, yeah, without Fox News and without Mitch McConnell and Bill Barr, who we talked about in an episode, getting in the way of investigations, which makes them complicit, like, there was witnesses, there was testimony, there was evidence in the Nixon impeachment trial. It never went to trial. I guess just hearings. So he saw the writing on the wall and he eventually resigned so that there were no further investigations because he was like a shady dude. And if they'd done further investigations, they probably would have found more crimes.
Yeah. Also, though, one of my favorite parts of the whole Nixon impeachment was that he played himself. Like,
Why?
He had recording equipment in the Oval Office.
Like Aaron Hernandez. That's what it reminded me of.
I'm like, you played yourself,
exactly.
bro. Like, oh my gosh, what are you doing?
Yeah, he was like, no, I'm innocent.
I'm glad you did that.
Yeah, and then somebody was like, oh, by the way, there's tapes. And he's like, okay, you know what? I'm out of here. Bye.
Yeah, like, whoops.
I have to.
Was like, wow, congratulations.
I have to go sit for a portrait of Roger Stone to put my face on his back. That's him, right? Isn't it Nixon that Roger Stone has a tattoo of on his back? It's not Reagan, right?
Yeah.
It's Nixon.
It might be Nixon.
Yeah. It's definitely Nixon. So,
Is that a real thing? Is that real?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
Not just like a joke?
No, go look it up. And it's also like too big and too small at the same time. Like, it's like almost the size of a regular head. It just doesn't make sense. Like, it's so weird. But yes, Roger Stone legit has a tattoo of Richard Nixon's face on his back. So it goes all the way to the top. That's why I think it's important to like sometimes go over stuff like this because it's like the same. Are you looking it up?
Oh,
Told
God.
you. Yeah, everybody go look this up. So he's in jail
I
now,
am not putting
right?
this on our Instagram. I will not. I refuse.
What if it's like the fourth photo in a series of photos? People might like it. I think you should give the people what they want, and I'm assuming that people want to see Roger Stone's tattoo.
Oh, I'll put it on there, but I'm going to cry inside about it.
Okay, you can blame me.
Oh my God, I hate it so much.
By the way, Morgan has been killing the Instagram game. So go follow at FYMI pod on Instagram because she's really funny and I was getting really overwhelmed by it. So there.
I really hope to be posting more memes.
I
just have to be really careful not to like get distracted at my like real job.
Yeah.
That makes me post things because then I could lose my real job.
Right.
So I need to be really careful, which is hard because I love social media. I want social media to be my job. I should go on The Bachelorette and be an Instagram influencer.
Okay.
And social media can be my job.
Okay, that's definitely an idea. We might have to discuss offline about it since Scott probably wouldn't enjoy you going on The Bachelorette, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of like maybe more of a coming from a place of desperation because I just looked at that Roger Stone tattoo too long.
Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, I don't know.
It's
see,
horrifying.
like Kevin's, they're into each other. Like if your boyfriend's friends are sexist and racist and shitty, your boyfriend's probably sexist and racist and shitty. You gotta like open up your eyes.
Yeah. And then sometimes you have a boyfriend who's kind of a Kevin, but you really like his friends and you're real confused about it. Because that has happened to me before. Yeah,
I'm confused by that.
Right? I like thought about breaking up with this person way earlier than we did. But I was like, no, his friends are so cool. Like, he's only this way sometimes. And then I was like, no, his friends are just like really good at pretending he's not this way because they're dudes.
Oh.
You know? And I don't
like that.
Yeah, this guy was rough. But his friends were great. So like, hi friends, you know who you are if you're listening.
I really like all of Clark's friends. But I also love him. I am not using him to just access his friends. But yeah. The foster kittens have really like increased my social desirability. I don't know. People want to people want to visit the kittens, and I don't blame them.
Yeah, like the kitten corner is giving me so much life.
Yeah. I'll start taking more pictures. They're getting so big.
Yes.
Okay. But so basically the big takeaway from the Nixon impeachment is that no one is above the law, not even the president. But trust in traditional media has plummeted, especially among Republicans. So now, instead of conservative media being in the fringes, Rupert Murdoch has created Fox News, and now we're all fucked. So I don't know. That's basically my summary. I sometimes like daydream about how Trump's impeachment would have gone, like if Mitch McConnell had called witnesses and like all that, and like it's so nice. But yeah, because of Fox News and because of Mitch McConnell and because the Attorney General Bill Barr is complicit in this, like we didn't get to see anything. So if we were living in like normal times that weren't so polarized and the Republicans in the Senate had backbones, he absolutely would have been impeached without a doubt. Just I want to say that unequivocally because I want people to understand.
Yeah. And listen to the Slow Burn podcast.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so easy to get through, and you can learn so much. Definitely a better recap of Martha Miller than I just did with my frantic, like, oh my God, I hate this woman.
No, I thought it was good.
And also, like, there's just so much more to it that, again, took them doing a whole season of a podcast to go over.
Yeah.
Because it is crazy. I had never heard of the Saturday Night Massacre.
Yeah. Before. So that's when he was firing his attorney generals because they wouldn't fire the person who was like who was investigating him. So he went through a couple people who had enough integrity that they weren't going to do what he was asking. They were going to resign. So I think 2 of them resigned. And then finally, like the third person said he would do Nixon's bidding. And but we have Attorney General Barr who he didn't have, he didn't have enough integrity to resign. He himself is like a shitty, bad, corrupt person who has like a vested interest in Trump still being president and getting away with these crimes and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. And like, this is definitely the kind of thing Trump would do too. And has really done with his like revolving carousel of cabinet members and staffers and, and, you know, which also this Slow Burn podcast kind of gets into a couple of the like conspiracy theories related to this whole thing. Not too much, but just enough to be like kind of brought to light how like the Watergate scandal really did increase people's cynicism in politics. And there's always been conspiracy theorists. I mean, that's just humans. But how like Watergate was basically like a conspiracy theorist dream.
Yes.
And I kind of think it really like between the Kennedy assassination happening and then all of this going down like not long after, really, like it was just really a time to be alive.
Yeah.
But, you know, really just a time that I think so much of that cynicism and skepticism in the media and
that's a really good point.
So much of that took off, and it's only gotten worse with Fox News and the 24-hour news cycle. Right. And I am not a person that wants to blame all of our problems on social media, but it certainly does help.
Yeah.
It certainly does help spread
exactly.
cynicism, it also helps spread misinformation.
Yeah.
But it also helps spread hope, and it helps spread good information.
Good ideas.
And that's important too, and that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And that's what, you know, that's what I think a lot of people are trying to do. Yeah. And it's important to find those voices and listen to them, to not feel so alone and crazy in these trying times.
Yeah. Okay, on that note, I'm going to talk about like what actions I'm taking this week. So, did Scott just get home?
Yeah.
Do you want to stop for a second, or is it okay?
It's fine.
Okay. So I'm going canvassing for Marie Newman on Saturday with Clark, so that'll be fun.
Yay!
I am excited. I really, really hope she wins. She is like an incredible progressive candidate, and Dan Lipinski is the worst. So I really, really hope that I don't know. We'll find out on Tuesday. Illinois' primary is on Tuesday. So this will come out on Monday. I know. It's finally here and like, oh, okay, it doesn't matter. This is for another time. But yeah. So for people who might be feeling like, oh, my candidate didn't make it this far, like I was fucking psyched to vote for Elizabeth Warren. But down ballot races matter. Like there is more than just the presidential primary. Like that is what most people know about. And then I would say most people probably also know usually about, if I don't know if they're paying attention, about their House rep. And then like I pay attention to politics constantly, and I had to do a lot of research, to find your down ballot races. Side note, when you do a caucus, like what happens with like down ballot races for you? I don't get it.
That's totally separate.
Oh, okay. So you still have an election.
That's like
it's just not a presidential.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yep. That's an election, but just for the presidential election, we do the caucus.
Okay.
I see. Everything else is just like a regular old election.
Got it. So, I, as a person, who lives in a home with an immunocompromised family member, today, so I am like legitimately motivated by stickers. Like I wanted to go and vote so I could get my I voted sticker. But today, just decided it's like not worth it to risk it with my mom. So we were going to go vote early tomorrow. In Illinois, you can vote early. So just Google it. Like it's out there. Most of the information that you're like, I don't know how to find it. Just like Google it. You can probably find it. But so I think Governor Pritzker extended the deadline to request a vote by mail ballot. So you can vote by mail you don't have to have like an excuse or a reason. You can just vote by mail if you want to. So, I mean, it's too late now. The deadline is at midnight tonight to submit your request for a vote by mail ballot. But I did that for me and my mom and my stepdad so that we don't have to go out. And it's just, if you can avoid unnecessary interactions, especially if you're going to have contact with an immunocompromised person, like social distancing is a good thing to try and practice. And also voting early is probably a good way of avoiding crowds. Like there'd probably be more of a crowd on Tuesday, but you can vote. There's a lot of different ways that you can vote. You can vote early if that's more convenient for you. And then, so canvassing, and then I get to actually like fill out my ballot. I get to actually like vote and participate in like civics this week. Like that's exciting. And then I'm also volunteering as an election protection volunteer on Tuesday. So I have like a training for that tomorrow, but I think it's basically just like you make sure people aren't like wrongfully denied the ability to vote, or like when they can cast a provisional ballot and stuff like that. So I'm excited to go see that. I think hopefully that'll like restore my faith in the process by seeing a lot of people participate.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
I love that.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, like I'm unemployed, so I can do whatever I want. So like my job is to make sure my mom's okay, basically. So that means I can go be an election protection volunteer at 5:45 on Tuesday because I can do what I want when I want, basically, which is nice.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you. I also wanted to go over, so I think a lot of people and another just like common, maybe not misconception, but just like something that you're not sure about or nervous about. It's always a good idea to bring a photo ID when you're going to vote. But you can bring stuff in there with you. So like nobody memorizes the judges that they're voting for. Like nobody memorizes the down ballot stuff that they're voting for. You can either like print it out, or if you go to, what is it called? It's not, I mean, it's from the League of Women Voters, but it has something to do, hold on. Oh, Illinois Voter Guide. So yeah, you can go to Illinois Voter Guide. So I don't know, this comes out on Monday. Maybe you're working from home. Maybe you have time to do this, but you can go to Illinois Voter Guide, and that is unbiased, and you can see like all the pros and cons about the different people that are on the ballot, including judges. I usually go to a different website, Injustice Watch, for judges to see what kind of like, especially if they have any kind of like sketchy background shit that I want to know about. So you can go to injusticewatch.org and then you put in your district, and then they tell you like what you're looking at, and you can kind of just like go through and decide who you like and who you don't like.
That is such a good idea.
Thank you. And then you can either print it out or you can email it to yourself, and you can look at your phone all you want while you're voting. So I think a lot of people are like, I'm not informed. And it's like, okay, well, I took 45 minutes today to like do what I felt like was a pretty in-depth dive into like everybody on my ballot, and I feel pretty good about it. And then I also found this really cool resource called Girl, I Guess, which is a progressive.
Yeah.
It was so cool. A progressive voter guide to the 2020 Democratic primary in Cook County and beyond. I hope something like this exists for everybody, but it is so thoroughly researched. It is like a 39-page document all about like who the most progressive candidate is and why they're being supported. So like Marie Newman gets a shout out. Like, I don't know. So this person,
I love that,
also hates Dan Lipinski. So I feel very close to them.
Validation.
But yeah, it's very clear that the person who put that together and I have like similar values. So I compared that list to the list that I put out, and we overlapped a lot, and I don't know, I just felt good about it. So I was in like a pretty dark space, I think, with, like climate change and the pandemic and everything. But I don't know. I'm starting to I feel better about that.
Yay. That's just such a great idea though too, that to remind people that you can look at your phone to like recall who it was you were going to vote for
sure.
And all of that. I know the first time I voted, I like got there and then realized that aside from like a few of the candidates that I really like knew I was going to vote for, there were so many other like judges and people on the ballot.
Yeah. And you're like, I
have no idea.
I don't even know what that job is, let alone like why I would vote for this person over this person. And like, this is a Democratic primary. So it's not like you're voting like Democratic or Republican. You're trying to pick the best Democrat that you want to be represented by to run against a Republican in November. That's what primaries are all about. So yeah, you like don't feel silly or overwhelmed. Like nobody memorizes this shit. Like,
yeah. And then even the first time I went to vote, like in a general, I'd done my research because that time I knew like, oh yeah, I need to know about these candidates. And then I didn't remember their names.
Yeah.
I was like, I think I liked this one. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Printing something off or having your phone is such a good idea.
Yeah.
Like such a genius idea. Or writing them down.
Yep.
You don't have to print
them
off,
like 48 races, I think, on my ballot though. So like, I don't know. I told my mom that, and because she only has use of one arm. So back when we thought that we were going to go to the ballot box, she was like, I can't have like an 18-page document. Like I just can't like, she can't navigate holding that and like actually voting, like pressing the screen to actually vote. So we were trying to figure out how we were going to like condense it for her. But now that we're getting our ballots mailed to us, you can do it in the luxury of our own home. I just won't get a sticker, and I'll be sad about it.
Well, you know what? I bet that we could find some I voted stickers on the internet or something that we could order.
It's not the same.
Yeah, it's probably not the same.
It's okay. I'll be all right. Okay. Do you have any...
If it helps, I didn't get an I voted sticker when I caucused because you don't get them. I mean, I got an Elizabeth Warren sticker that day. Nice. You know, like
I have some Marie Newman
stickers for whoever you're caucusing for, but yeah. So, for me, it mostly my action is just to like make sure I am, being a good steward of public health right now and not, contributing to misinformation. answering questions when people have them for me.
Yeah.
The best that I can. And then with it being Women's History Month, I found a podcast that they only have like 2 episodes out right now. They're all out on Stitcher Premium, but I don't have Stitcher Premium because I'm poor. And, but you know what? I'll just listen to them as they come.
Mm-hmm.
And there's more joy in the wait, or so I'm telling myself.
Yeah.
And, so it's a podcast for Women's History Month, and it's just making me really happy to know that there are enough people out there who want to listen to stuff like this, that they were like, yeah, we could totally make a podcast.
What's it called?
And also the host is the wonderful Erin Gibson from the Throwing Shade podcast and Funny or Die. You may know her from Game of Thrones. She's like behind all of that. She's pretty funny, genius. Well, she's a very funny genius. I meant she was pretty and funny and kind of a funny genius. But yeah, so this podcast is called History the Shequel.
I like it.
Like sequel, but shequel.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I have only, again, there's only 2 episodes out right now, but I am finding so much joy in it.
Yeah.
Just knowing that there's things like this that exist. And I really love Erin Gibson. So, that helps too. Yeah. And yeah, I feel like I just plugged 2 other podcasts on this podcast. Free
advertising.
Free advertising. You're welcome. Erin Gibson, if you're listening, I would love an autographed copy of your book, Feminasty.
Also, listen to our podcast and rate and review it. Erin Gibson, specifically. And everybody.
Yeah. And if your name isn't Erin Gibson and you still want to rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast, that would be awesome.
Send this to especially like your Illinois, Chicago friends who want to be more involved with politics and stuff like that. Like, this is a pretty good primer for voting in the primary elections, which will be by the time you're hearing this tomorrow. So, yeah, if you like it, the nicest thing that you could do for us is share it with a friend. So yeah. Do you want foster kitten updates?
Yes, all of the kitten updates.
Okay, so I've been posting more about it on Instagram because it seems like everybody is like fucking depressed and like needs a wholesome distraction. And so I'm happy to provide that. But their eyes are opening. Like, they're not like all the way open, but they're like starting to open. So I think today they're 9 days old. And they're definitely getting like bigger and squishier. They're better at like wobbling around. Like, I'm definitely not going to call it walking, but like they move. So yeah, they're doing great. I'll keep sending pics and posting them on Instagram.
Yes. Give us all the updates.
Yeah.
I love them. Yeah. I love them all.
Me too. All right. Anything else that you want to talk about that we didn't get to?
Just a little reminder to just choose facts over fear.
Yeah.
That's a good dream message. Big, fight hard.
Aww. I miss Elizabeth. Yeah.
She has a great plan that she put out about the coronavirus
as
well. And I'm like, of course she has a plan for this.
Yep. She did her homework and everybody else's too.
Yep. It's just everything. And I think that's, you know what? Focus on the positives and learn about some history like Watergate to figure out
some context for the bullshit that's going on. Exactly.
And maybe that can help us. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe
it would be nice if we learned from our mistakes. It would be nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's at the very least, when your racist uncle who's like 70 is going off about something at Easter, you can be like, well, Watergate, and he'll be like, how would you know? You weren't even alive, millennial. And you'll be like, okay,
I like
boomer,
to learn
sit
stuff,
down.
bitch.
I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
And then you can tell them.
Yeah. Okay. I feel better.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Well then, I'm just gonna, everybody who, I think most of our listeners are from Illinois. Did you know we have some listeners from Canada?
Oh my gosh, we love you and we're so sorry.
That's perfect. Yeah. We love you and we're so sorry. Yeah. Okay, that's all. But if you're in Illinois and you haven't voted yet, please go vote. Please not paying attention, not actively engaging in politics is how we get assholes like Donald Trump in power and people who enable him. So like we have to hold them accountable, and if we don't participate, then that's not going to happen. Only 49% of millennials voted. That is bullshit. White women need to get our shit together. That is,
do better.
Take one of your white women friends to the polls with you and make sure that they are voting for progressive causes.
Look, someday I'll talk more about him, but my grandpa would be very proud of you for voting. And that isn't no small thing for my grandpa to be proud of you.
That's what we're all looking for. It's just validation from our grandpas.
Yeah. So, like, if you don't think your own grandpa would care if you were voting in a Democratic primary, know that my grandpa would. And
so would we.
That's important.
Yeah.
That should be important.
Yeah.
Yeah. We absolutely are proud of you.
Yeah. Okay. That's nice. All right. We'll convene next week and see how things are going then.
And thank you so much for listening.
Yes. Thank you for listening. Okay. Bye. Make sure you follow along on Instagram at FYMI Pod. Shout out to Hope Dye for the podcast art and Kyle Dibdahl for the intro and outro music, and Ben Schlofelt for the audio production.
Please subscribe to this podcast, and if you like it, give us a rating and review. It makes it easier for other people to find us, and the more of us there are, the better. We come out with new episodes every Monday.